All right, we're going to start with the odd ones, and then if you have any questions about the even, we'll answer those too. So starting with number 1, this says divide using long division. On the quiz, it'll look just like this, where the first part you have to do long division, the second part you have to do synthetic division. So you have to follow the instructions. So long division, what goes inside the box? (10n squared plus 77n plus 44, and then n plus 7 goes outside. Now remember, long division, we have 3 steps that just repeat over and over. So we divide for step number 1, then multiply, and then subtract. And when we subtract, we change the signs. So step 1 is divide. So when I divide 10n squared by n, all I'm doing is taking away one of the n's. So if it's n squared, what do I get when I divide it? 10n. So when you divide, you just take away an n. That works every single time. So the number is going to stay the same. The variable stays the same. You just take one of them away. After that, we multiply. So I multiply 10n times n and 7. So what's 10n times n? 10n squared, and 10n times 7? 70n. What's the next step? Change the sign, change the sign. So the first ones always cancel out. What's 77n minus 70n? 7n. So after we subtract, back to step number 1. We divide. So I take away one of the n's from 7n. What am I left with? Just 7. Then we multiply. So 7 times everything out front. So this gives us 7n. And 7 times 7 is 49. What's next? Change a sign, change a sign. So it becomes minus and minus. Bring down the 44. So what's 44 minus 49? Negative 5. That's our remainder. We don't have any more n's to take away here, so that would be our remainder. So our answer is 10n plus 7, remainder negative 5. So what's going to go inside the box? The first one. Always check to make sure we're not missing any variables. We have 3, 2, 1, and no x, so we're good there. And then outside I have x minus 8. So step 1 is divide. When I divide, I just take away an x. So if I have x cubed, it'll be x squared. Then we multiply. X squared times x is x cubed, and x squared times negative 8? Negative 8x squared. What's next? Change a sign, and combine. So the x cubes cancel. And what's negative 5x squared plus 8x squared? 3x squared. What's next? We divide, so we take away one of the x's, so it would just be 3x. Perfect. Then we multiply, so this gives us 3x squared again. 3x times negative 8? Negative 24x. What's next? Bring down the 32 and change the signs. So we combine these together. The first ones cancel. What's negative 32x plus 24x? Positive or negative? Negative 8. So negative 8x. What's next? Divide. So what is negative 8x divided by x? Negative 8. All I do is take away the x, so it's just negative 8. And then we multiply. So negative 8 times x is negative 8x. What's negative 8 times negative 8? 64. And then what's next? Change a sign, and bring down 54. So the first one's cancel. What is 54 minus 64? Negative 10. What's next? That's our remainder. There's no more x's in there, so that's our remainder. So our answer is x squared plus 3x minus 8, remainder negative 10. We're going to do number 6 because we're missing a variable there. So this is a good one to practice. So what goes inside the box? Which variable am I missing? Just b, because I have 3, 2, and none, so I'm missing that 1. So in this spot, I'm going to put what? 0b. So in my box, I put b cubed plus 4b squared plus 0b plus 9. And then outside, I have b plus 4. So what do I do first? Divide. So it's b cubed divided by b. So if I have 3 b's and take 1 away, it's b squared. Perfect. Then what do we do? Multiply. So b squared times b would be b cubed. What's b squared times 4?
4b squared.
4b squared. And then what do I do? Change a sign, change a sign. So the b cubes cancel. What's 4b squared minus 4b squared? It cancels as well, but I'm going to put a 0b squared just to be the placeholder there, so I can continue with the steps. So what do we do next? If I just subtracted, I divide. So if I take away a b from 0b squared, what do I get? 0b. Then what do I do? Multiply. So it's 0b times b. 0b squared. And 0b times 4? Just 0b. Then we change the signs. Change the signs. What else do I have to do? Drop down the 0b. These cancel. Again, I'm left with 0b. What do I do next? Divide. So if I take away b from 0b, it's just 0. Then we multiply. 0 times b. 0 times 4. 0. Then change the signs. And what else do I have to do? Drop down the 9. So what's 9 plus 0 or minus 0? 9. What do I do with the 9? That's the remainder. So here, it wouldn't have mattered if you skipped the 0b because it ends up being 0 in the middle anyways, but it usually does matter. So don't forget, if you're missing one of your terms to start, just like we were here, you have to put it in there. So our answer is b squared, remainder 9. We don't put the zeros in our answer. All right, let's go to number 7. So what's going to go inside the box? The first one. Am I missing anything? I have 3, 2, 1, and none. So we're good. So everything in the first part goes in the box. N to the third power minus 17n squared plus 77n minus 43. What goes outside the box? And minus 7. Yeah, it stays the same. For synthetic division, the sign changes. All right, so step 1, we divide. So if I have n to the third power and I take away an n, what am I left with? N squared. What's next? Multiply. So I get n to the third power, same thing. What's n squared times negative 7? Negative 7n squared. What do I do next? Change a sign, change a sign. The first one's cancel. What's negative 17n squared plus 7n squared? Negative 10n squared. What do I do next? Divide. So what do I get? Negative 10n. Perfect. and then multiply. So I get negative 10n squared. What's negative 10n times negative 7? Positive 70, because a negative times a negative is positive. But then what do I do next? Change the sign. So it becomes negative. So these cancel. What else do I have to do? Drop down the 77. So it's 77n minus 70n. 7n. Then we divide. So if I take away an n, what do I get? Just 7. So 7 times n would be 7n, and 7 times negative 7?
42.
Negative 49. Change the sign, and combine. So these cancel. What else do I have to do? Bring down the negative 43, and
6.
we get 6. And what do I do with that? That's the remainder. So my answer is n squared minus 10n plus 7, remainder 6. Am I missing anything in number 2? I'm missing the squared term. So what do I have to put in that place? 0n squared. So I have n to the third power plus 0n squared minus 3n minus 11. And then outside I have n minus 2. What do I do first? Divide. So if I have n cubed divided by n, what do I get? N squared. Then we multiply. I have n to the third power, and n squared times negative 2? Negative 2n squared. What's next? Change a sign, and combine. So the n cubes cancel. What's 0n squared plus 2n squared? 2n squared. What's next? Divide. So if I take away an n from 2n squared, what do I get? 2n. Then we multiply. So 2n squared. What's 2n times negative 4? Negative 4n. And then what do I do? Change the sign so it becomes a positive 4n. So the first one's cancel. What's next? Drop down the negative 3n, and what's negative 3n plus 4n? Just 1n. What do I do next? Divide. So if I have 1n and I take away an n, what am I left with? 1. Awesome. Then we multiply. I get 1n. And what's 1 times negative 2? Negative 2. And then change a sign. First one's cancel. What else do I have to do? Bring down the negative 11. What's negative 11 plus 2? Negative 9. And what's negative 9? The remainder. So here, n squared plus 2n plus 1, remainder negative 9. All right, starting with number 2. Remember, we always have to make sure that all of our terms are there. So if we start with n to the third power, that means we need n to the second power, n to the first power, and no n. So what am I missing here? The second power. So I'm going to put a 0 n to the second power there. So the first one, say we have to divide using long division. So the whole first equation goes inside the box, n to the third power plus 0n squared minus 3n minus 11. What goes outside? N minus 2. So we start by dividing. When we divide, we just take away an n. So if I have n to the third power, if I take away an n, what am I left with? N squared, so that goes on top. So remember, our 3 steps are divide, multiply, and then subtract. And what do we do when we subtract? Change the signs. So these are our 3 steps that we repeat over and over. Yes? Only when you do synthetic division, you change the signs. So it should just be exactly like it is here. So it's n minus 2 on the outside. So we just divided. What's step 2? Multiply. So multiply n squared by everything out front. So we get n to the third power. And what's n squared times negative 2? Negative 2n squared.
Where did you get the n squared from?
When we divide, we take away an n. So starting with the first number here, if it's n to the third power, take away an n, it's n squared. N.
Oh, okay.
So this is all that's going to be on the quiz tomorrow?
Yep.
This is long dividing?
Long division and synthetic division.
And wait, then why is the synthetic division? Oh, it is.
So then we change the signs. So what happens to the n to the third powers? They cancel. What is 0n squared plus 2n squared? 2n squared. So after we subtract, what do I do next? Divide. So we do it all again. So if I have 2n to the second power and I take away an n, what am I left with? 2n. After I divide, I multiply. So this gives me 2n squared. And what's 2n times negative 2? Negative 4n. Then what do I do next? Change a sign, and combine. So these cancel. What do I do with the 4n? So I bring down the negative 3n. Negative 3n plus 4n is what? N. Or I could say 1n. What do I do next? Divide. So if I divide 1n by n, what do I get? 1. So I take away the n. Remember, when you divide, all you do is take away an n. So I take away an n, I get 1, then I multiply. So 1 times n is 1n. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Then we change the signs. These cancel. Drop down the negative 11. And what's negative 11 plus 2? Negative 9. What do I do with the negative 9? That's our remainder. Bless you. So our answer here is n squared plus 2n plus 1, remainder negative 9. All right, so number 4. What's going to go inside the box? The first one. Am I missing anything here? Nope, so I just put it all in the box. 3p cubed minus 33p squared plus 22p plus 76. So then I have 10 minus, or p minus 10 on the outside. What do I do first? Divide. So if I have 3p cubed and I take away a p, what am I left with? 3p squared. After I divide, I multiply. So I have 3p cubed and 3p squared times negative 10. Negative 30p squared. What's next? Change a sign, change a sign. So the first one's cancel. What is negative 33p squared plus 30p squared? Negative 3p squared. What's next? Divide. So if I take away a p from negative 3p squared, what do I get? Negative 3p. What do I do next? Multiply. So what's negative 3p times p? Negative 3p squared. What's negative 3p times negative 10? Positive 30p. And then what do we do? Then we change the signs. So the first one's cancel. What else do I have to do? Bring down the 22p. So what's 22p minus 30p? Negative 8p. What do I do next? Divide. So if I have negative 8p and I take away a p, what do I have? Negative 8. After we divide, we multiply. So negative 8 times p is negative 8p. And negative 8 times negative 10? 80. And then what's next? Change a sign, and combine. So these cancel. What else do I have to do? Bring down the 76. So it's 76 minus 80. Negative 4. So the remainder is negative 4. So my answer is 3p squared minus 3p minus 8, remainder negative 4. Do you guys have any questions here?
Yeah, I'm confused like how to start.
All right.
Like you write it down like the equation, but then like you divide it by something.
So we always divide it by whatever is out front here, which will just be like the variable x.
But like just the p, not the 10.
Just the p.
Okay.
So we always divide it just by this first one, and then when we multiply it to both.
Oh, okay. All right.
So let's take, or no, number 5. We're going to do number 5. So inside the box, am I missing any terms? No. So m to the third power minus 18m squared plus 72 plus 72m plus 85. And then outside I have m minus 10. All right, so Luca, step 1 is divide. So I take the first number here and divide it by m. So I'm just taking away an m here. So if I
it'd be m squared.
m squared. So I put that above the m squared here. So after I divide, what do?
You put it on like under it.
Well,
What squared under it?
then I multiply. So m squared times m would be m to the third power. So it'll always repeat here because it's going to cancel. And then m squared times negative 10 would be negative 10m squared. And then what's next?
And then these like the m's cancel out.
Well, we have to change the signs for them to cancel. But yes, they'll cancel. So then I have negative 18m squared plus 10m squared.
8m squared.
Negative 8m squared. So then I do the same thing again. I divide negative 8m squared by m. And what do I get?
Negative 8m.
Negative 8m. So after I divide, I multiply. So negative 8m times m would be negative 8m squared. And negative 8m times negative 10?
When you're multiplying it, you have to do it to the m and
to both numbers.
dividing it like in the beginning.
It's just the m, yep. But when you multiply, it's to both. So negative 8m times negative 10 would be
Plus 80.
positive 80m. And then what do we do after we multiply?
Change the sign.
Change the signs. So these cancel. Bring down the 72m. So what's 72m minus 80m?
Negative 80.
Negative 8m. So when we divide, negative 8m divided by m,
Negative 8.
negative 8. We just take away the m, so it's negative 8. Then we multiply. So negative 8 times m would be negative 8m. And what's negative 8 times negative 10?
Plus 80.
Plus 80. And then what do I do?
Change the sign.
Change the signs, change the signs. What else?
Bring down the 85.
Bring down the 85. So it's 85 minus 80. 5. And then once I run out of m's, what do you think the 5 is? My remainder.
Yes.
Is there a YouTube video on this?
There will be.
Are you doing it?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
So looking at number 8, am I missing anything?
Yeah.
What am I missing? Just x. I have the third power, the second power. I'm missing the first power. So what do I have to put in that place? 0x. So I, inside my box, have x to the third power minus 4x squared plus 0x minus 8. And then outside I have x minus 4. We put a 0 in that place because we need every term that comes after the first. So if I have x to the third power, I need 3, 2, 1, none.
Oh.
So if you start with the fourth power, you need 4, 3, 2, 1. So you need every degree that comes after whatever you start with. All right, so now we divide. So what's x to the third power divided by x? X squared. So that goes on top. Next I multiply. So x squared times x is x to the third power, and x squared times negative 4? Negative 4x squared. So we change the signs and combine. So the x cubes cancel. What's negative 4x squared plus 4x squared? 0x squared. Then what do we do? Divide. So what's 0x squared divided by x? 0x. I'm going to put the 0x there just as a placeholder so I can continue my steps. So I just divided. So then what do I do after we divide? Multiply. So I multiply it. What's 0x times x? 0x squared. And what's 0x times negative 4? 0. What do I do next? I change the signs and bring down the 0x. So these cancel. What's 0 plus 0? 0. So if I do it again, what's 0 divided by x? 0. And then 0 times x is? 0. And 0 times negative 4? 0. Then we change the signs. It really doesn't matter when you change the signs when it's just zeros because negative 0 and positive 0 are the same thing. And then we bring down the negative 8. So it's negative 8 plus 0. Negative 8. And then that's the last number, so what's that? My remainder. So in my answer, I don't put the zeros, so it's just x squared, remainder, negative 8. So you don't put the zeros in your answer. Did we go back? All right, let's take a look at number 9. So just like before, we always have to make sure we have all of our terms there. So I have x to the third power, second power, first power, and no power. So we're good. What goes inside the box? One, -6, -15, and 54. Perfect. Since this x to the third power didn't have a number, remember it's 1x to the third power. So put a 1 in the box. What goes outside the box? 7. What do I do first? Drop down the 1. What's next? Multiply. So we multiply the numbers on the outside. So 7 times 1 is 7. What do I do to the numbers on the inside? Add. -6 plus 7 is 1. Outside we multiply. So 7 times 1 is 7. On the inside we add. What is -15 plus 7? -8. What's 7 times -8? -56. And what's 54 minus 56? -2. All right, so if my question started with x to the third power, what does my answer have to start with? X squared. And then what comes next? X. And then just the number, and then what's the last number? The remainder. So my answer here is x squared. Remember, if it doesn't have a sign in front of it, that means it's positive. So we put plus x minus 8 remainder -2. So we don't put the 1s in front of the x because it's implied that it's a 1. All right, number 11. What goes inside the box? Am I missing any terms? A b squared. So in this spot, what am I going to put? A 0 b squared. So then what goes inside the box? The first equation, but only the coefficient. So what numbers go inside the box? What's the number in front of b to the 4th power? 1, then -7, and then 0, then -10 and 61. What goes on the outside? Remember, we changed the sign of the one on the outside, so +7 goes on the outside. So drop down the 1, and we multiply. What's 7 times 1? 7. What's -7 plus 7? 0. What's 7 times 0? And 0 plus 0? 7 times 0? -10 plus 0. -10. And 7 times -10? -70. And 61 minus 70? -9. So if my question started with b to the 4th power, what does my answer start with? B to the 3rd power. And then this would be b squared, then b, then just the number, and then the remainder. So my answer here would be b to the 3rd power. If the number is 1, we don't put it in front of it because it's already implied that it's a 1. The 0 b's we don't write. And then -10, remainder -9. Any questions? All right, 13. What numbers go inside the box? Perfect. 1, -6, -14, 3, and -5. We're not missing anything. We have 4, 3, 2, 1, none. What goes outside the box? -2. We change the sign of the number outside. What do I do first? Drop down the 1 and then multiply. We get -2. What's -6 minus 2? -8. What's -2 minus 8? Times. We multiply the outside. So that would be 16. What is -14 plus 16? And -2 times 2? -4. 3 plus -4? -1. -2 times -1? And -5 plus 2? -3. So if my question started with n to the 4th power, what does my answer start with? N to the 3rd power, then we have n squared, then just n, and then the last number is the remainder. So n to the 3rd power minus 8n squared plus 2n minus 1, remainder -3. That's our answer. All right, 15, what goes in the box? What goes outside the box? 4. What do I do first? Drop down the 1. Outside we multiply, so 4 times 1. Inside we add, 6 plus 4. Multiply, 4 times 10. Add, -36 plus 40. Multiply on the outside, 4 times 4. And -23 plus 16. -7. So if my question started with x to the 3rd power, what does my answer start with? X squared. then x, then nothing, and the last numbers are remainder. So my answer would be x squared plus 10x plus 4, remainder negative 7. You can't just write it this way because you don't have pluses in between. You have to rewrite it like this. Remember, if there's a 1 as your coefficient, you don't write it in your answer because it's already implied that it's a 1 in front of the x. Any questions? Yes. Yes. All right, let's do number 12. Which term am I missing here? The x. So what am I going to put there? 0x. What's going to go inside the box? Perfect. 1, negative 6, 0, negative 9. What goes outside the box? Positive 6. So what's the first step? Drop down the 1, and then what? Multiply, then. So we get 0. What's 6 times 0? And 0 plus 0? And 6 times 0? And negative 9 plus 0? All right, so if my answer starts with x to the third power, if my question starts with x to the third power, what's my answer going to start with? X squared, then x, then nothing, and the last one's the remainder. So my answer would just be what? Awesome. X squared, remainder, negative 9. You don't write the zeros in your answer. So you just skip those completely. Oops, we're doing synthetic division, so it's the upside down box. And we just need the coefficient. So what goes in the box? Perfect. 1, 1, negative 5, and 31. Always make sure that you have all your variables there. We have 3, 2, 1, none. What goes outside the box? Negative 4. Here's where you change the sign of the number outside. What do I do first? Drop down the 1. And what do I do to the numbers outside? Multiply. What do I do to the numbers inside? Add. So 1 plus negative 4. Negative 3. Negative 4 times negative 3? 12. Negative 5 plus 12. 7. Negative 4 times 7. Negative 28. And 31 minus 28? 3. So if my question starts with r to the third power, what does my answer have to start with? R to the second power. Then just r, and then the last number's the remainder. So my answer here would be r squared minus 3r plus 7, remainder 3. Yeah, you can just use x.
Why didn't you put the 1?
Because if 1 comes in front of a variable, you don't have to put it because it's already implied that it's a 1 there. So you don't have to put the 1 in front.
And I'll can write 11.
All right. Number 12. Yes. Yes. Number 12. Am I missing anything here, Amanda?
You're not.
Yes, you are.
What am I missing?
The 1.
The x to the first power. So in here, I'm going to put a 0x.
That's what I
No.
Yes. So what are the numbers that go in the box?
1, negative 6, 0, negative 9,
Perfect. What goes outside the box?
positive 6.
Positive 6. We change the number on the outside. What do I do first? Drop down the 1. 6 times 1 is?
6,
Negative 6 plus 6?
0,
6 times 0?
0,
0 plus 0?
0,
6 times 0?
0,
Negative 9 times plus 0.
negative 9.
Negative 9. So here, when I write my answer, what does it start with?
Oh, wait, let me do this one.
So the 1.
So if it starts with x to the third power in the question, what is my answer?
x3. No, 2.
x2, it's always one less.
Yeah.
So x squared, then this would be x, and the last number is our remainder. But we don't write the zeros, and we don't write the 1 in front of the x. So it would just be x squared, remainder -9. So we don't write the zeros. So we just skip those.
Yes.
What's going to go inside the box?
1, 12, 29, -37.
Perfect. We're not missing anything. We have 3, 2, 1, and no variable. So we're good. What goes outside the box? -7.
I'm trying to do this.
What do we do first?
Bring down the 1.
Bring down the 1, and then,
-7 times 1.
which is
-7.
-7. And what do we do on the inside?
12 plus -7.
So what's that? Then what do we do?
5 times -6.
Which is?
-35.
What's next?
Add that.
Add that. Kaylee, what do we get when we add this?
-64.
It's 29 minus 35.
Oh. I don't know. It's a negative. I got
-6. What do we do next?
-7 times -6.
What's -7 times -6?
-42.
Positive 42, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And then what do we get when we add this?
Can't do it off the top of my head.
-37 plus 42.
Negative. Wait, let me do it. Hold on.
5. So then if my answer starts with n to the third power, what does my question start with?
N cubed
N
squared.
squared. And then, and what's the last number? Remainder. So our answer would be n squared plus 5n minus 6, remainder 5. Good job.
So if it doesn't have like you see how it says 1n squared and then there's nothing there, that's gonna be always a plus.
Right, so here there's nothing in between. That means it's a positive 5, so we just put a plus. Because we have to make it into like an equation. All right, last one, 16. Amanda, you're going to do this one for us. What goes inside the box?
1.
What goes outside the box? Positive 6, because we changed the sign. What's the first thing I do?
So what you're going to do is you're going to bring down the 1.
Drop down the 1.
Yeah. And then you're going to multiply it with 61. And then you're going to multiply. You're going to add the 9. And that's what?
What's -9 plus 6?
-9 plus 6 is
What do I do next?
You're going to multiply the 6 and the -3.
And get?
Then you're going to get -18. And then what you're going to do, excuse me,
What's 14 minus 18?
then what you're going to do is you're going to subtract 4. Then what you're going to do is you're going to multiply the 6 and the -4.
And what do we get?
So when you multiply, you're going to get -24. That's the answer. And then, I'm not done. You do put -24 from 23 when you -1.
Yes. So if our question starts with x to the third power, what does our answer start with?
Second power.
And then,
Then it's going to be x.
and then what's the last number?
Done.
The remainder. So my answer is x squared, because I don't write the 1, minus 3x minus 4, remainder negative 1.